Imagine this: someone you cared about, someone who once meant the world to you, walks away, only to realize afterward what they've lost. Now they're trying to come back, hoping to rewrite the story they once ignored. But here's the truth: you are not a backup plan, and you shouldn't be. Today, I want to talk about why you should stand firm, hold your ground, and never take them back. Because the moment you do, you're not just giving them another chance, you're giving them the power to undervalue you again. And that, my friends, is something you can't afford. Let's start with the first point: recognizing your worth. It's one of those things that sounds simple, yet so many people struggle with it deeply. Recognizing your worth isn't about arrogance or entitlement. It's about understanding the fundamental truth that you are inherently valuable. You don't have to earn love, respect, or kindness. These are things you deserve because you exist. But the challenge is, many of us have been conditioned to think otherwise. We've been told, subtly or overtly, that we need to prove ourselves constantly, that we're not enough unless we do more, gain more, or be more. And so we spend our lives chasing validation from outside sources, waiting for someone to affirm our value, hoping that if we just do enough, they'll see it. But here's the real truth, and it's a truth that sets some people free while trapping others in endless cycles of disappointment. Your worth is not determined by their approval. It is not subject to their opinions, their moods, or their fleeting perceptions. Your worth is a fixed, unchangeable truth. It's like the gravity that holds the universe together, constant, reliable, and undeniable. If you look at yourself through that lens, you realize that you don't have to earn love or validation. You just have to acknowledge that you already have it. So why is it so hard for us to see that? Why do we allow other people's opinions to drown out our internal voice? It's because we've been conditioned to seek external validation. It's a survival mechanism, really. From childhood, we're told to earn praise, to get good grades, to win awards, to impress others. We learn early that approval from others equals acceptance. But as we grow older, that mindset becomes a trap. We start to believe that our value fluctuates based on what others think, that our happiness is tied to their approval. And that's a dangerous lie. Recognizing your worth is about flipping that narrative. It's about waking up to the fact that your value isn't something you need to chase or prove. It's something you own. It's a foundation, not a fluctuating commodity. When you truly understand this, you stop seeking validation from people who don't see your worth. Instead, you carry yourself with confidence, knowing that your value isn't dependent on their recognition, but on your own acknowledgement of who you are. It's about self-awareness. It's about looking inward and saying, I am enough. I am worthy of love, respect, and kindness simply because I exist. No more waiting for someone to tell you, you're enough. No more trying to earn their approval as if it's a prize you have to win. You are enough because you are you. That's where real power begins. When you stop seeking validation outside and start validating yourself from within, you become unstoppable. This isn't about ego, it's about clarity. It's about honesty with yourself. When you recognize your worth, you stop settling for less. You stop accepting crumbs when you deserve a feast. You stop wasting time on people who don't see the value you bring into their lives. Because deep down, you know that your worth isn't up for debate. It's a non-negotiable. It's a truth that no one can take away from you unless you let them. And once you truly understand this, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, and demand differently. Because you know your value. And that knowledge changes everything. It becomes a filter through which you view every relationship, every interaction, and every decision. When you see yourself as inherently valuable, you stop chasing after validation like it's a prize you have to earn. Instead, you attract people who recognize your worth naturally. You set boundaries because you understand that your value isn't up for negotiation. You refuse to be treated as less than because you see yourself as more than enough. That's the shift, the moment when your internal value becomes your external reality. Now, building on that, let's move to the second point, the power of self-respect. Recognizing your worth is the first step, but self-respect is what sustains it. Self-respect isn't just about how you act, it's about how you carry yourself internally. It's about honoring your feelings, your boundaries, and your needs even when it's uncomfortable. It's about knowing what you will and won't accept and sticking to that standard consistently. When you respect yourself, you don't settle for less because you understand that you deserve more. You don't allow people to treat you poorly or dismiss your feelings because your self-respect is a shield. It's the foundation of healthy relationships. Because people are quick to sense when someone respects themselves. If you value yourself, others will too. If you tolerate disrespect, you teach others that it's okay. But if you stand firm in your self-respect, you communicate clearly that you're not someone to be taken for granted. Self-respect is also about integrity. It means being honest with yourself about what you want and need, and not compromising those things for temporary comfort or the fear of loneliness. It's about aligning your actions with your core values. When you respect yourself, you prioritize your well-being, your growth, and your happiness. You don't sacrifice your peace for fleeting approval or superficial validation. Instead, you make choices that reflect your true self. This doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're committed to growth and honesty. It means you recognize your flaws and imperfections, but refuse to let them define your worth. Self-respect is a daily practice, an ongoing commitment to treat yourself with kindness, patience, and honesty. It's about setting boundaries and enforcing them. It's about saying no when necessary, even if it's uncomfortable. It's about protecting your energy and your peace because you understand that your well-being isn't negotiable. When you cultivate self-respect, you become a magnet for healthier relationships. People are drawn to those who value themselves because they see the confidence and clarity that come with it. They respect boundaries, they communicate openly, and they refuse to accept anything less than they deserve. Self-respect is the armor that guards your worth, and it's the foundation upon which everything else is built. It's not always easy. Sometimes walking away from someone who doesn't treat you right feels like a loss, but it's actually a gain. It's a declaration to yourself that your worth isn't something you'll compromise. It's a commitment to your own happiness and integrity. Self-respect is about refusing to accept crumbs when you deserve the feast. It's about knowing that you're worth more than temporary validation or superficial affection. When you truly embrace your worth and uphold your self-respect, your life begins to change. People begin to see you differently because they see someone who knows their value. You stop begging for attention, instead you attract genuine affection. You stop chasing approval, instead you command respect. And that's the kind of power that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire outlook on life. Recognizing your worth and cultivating self-respect aren't one-time acts, they're ongoing journeys. They require patience, honesty, and courage. But once you internalize these truths, you become unstoppable. You walk through life with your head high, knowing that you are enough, and you demand the respect you deserve. That's where real freedom begins. That's where you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your own happiness. Because when you know your worth and treat yourself with respect, no one can take that away from you. No one can diminish your light, and no one can make you settle for less than your worth. You see, once you understand your worth and embody self-respect, it becomes impossible for others to treat you as anything less than what you truly deserve. But there's a trap many fall into, a misconception that keeps them tethered to cycles of uncertainty and heartbreak, the idea that returning to someone who has walked away is a sign of strength, a way to regain what was lost. That's a lie. That's the illusion that keeps so many stuck in a pattern of giving second chances that aren't really earned and accepting apologies that don't come with change. Let's get real. There's a difference between forgiveness and settling. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment, but settling is about letting someone back into your life when they've already shown they don't value you enough to stay. When someone leaves and then tries to come back, it's often because they've realized what they lost, but that realization isn't automatically an invitation. It's not a green light to reopen the door without accountability. Because if you're honest with yourself, you know that the real question isn't whether they regret losing you. It's whether they've changed enough, grown enough, to meet your standards now. That's what makes the difference. Many people make the mistake of thinking that if someone comes back, it's a second chance, like a clean slate, a fresh start. But the reality is, the second chance is only meaningful if they've demonstrated genuine growth, if they haven't taken responsibility for their actions, if they haven't shown consistent effort over time. Then their return is just a temporary fix, a band-aid that doesn't heal the deeper issues. It's tempting to believe that love can fix everything, that people can change overnight. But the truth is, real change takes time, effort, and consistent behavior. If those changes aren't evident, then their return is a trap, a way to keep you hanging on to something that's not healthy or sustainable. When you've recognized your worth and cultivated your self-respect, you see these situations for what they really are. You don't chase after someone who's just trying to come back because they're afraid of losing you. Instead, you ask yourself, are they coming back because they've genuinely changed or because they're afraid of being alone? Because if it's the latter, then their return is not a gift. It's a test. A test to see if you're willing to settle, to accept less than you deserve just to avoid being alone. And that's a test you should never take. You see, true strength lies in knowing when to walk away, not when to take someone back. It's about realizing that your value isn't a bargaining chip to be negotiated with guilt, regret, or fear. Your worth is non-negotiable. Walking away in these situations is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that you're not desperate for closure or validation. You're not going to be someone's backup plan, someone's safety net when they realize they've made a mistake. Instead, you're someone who respects themselves enough to wait for the right person. The person who values you from the beginning, who proves it through their actions over time. If someone leaves and then comes back, it's often because they've realized what they lost, but that realization should come with accountability, growth, and a sincere desire to be better. If it doesn't, then their return isn't a blessing, it's a temptation to accept less than you deserve. You've got to see through that illusion. Because if you take someone back without their having earned it, you're not just risking getting hurt again, you're undervaluing yourself. You're telling the universe, and more importantly, yourself, that your worth is flexible, that it can be compromised for temporary comfort. But your worth isn't something you can bargain with or negotiate. It's a non-negotiable. When you know this deep inside, you stop accepting apologies that are empty, excuses that are hollow, and attempts to fix what was broken without real effort. And the truth is, the moment you let someone back into your life without real change, you're giving them another chance to take you for granted. You're allowing them to see that their absence didn't really cost them anything, because you're still there, waiting, hoping, believing that maybe this time will be different. But that's the trap, believing that love alone can heal all wounds. Sometimes love isn't enough if the foundation isn't solid. If they haven't grown, if they haven't taken responsibility, then their return is just a temporary illusion, a distraction from the real work that needs to be done. You have to ask yourself, am I holding on to hope? Or am I holding out for someone who truly deserves me? Hope is a wonderful thing, but hope shouldn't be a substitute for reality. Because reality is, if someone leaves and then tries to come back, they should have to earn their place again. They should have to prove that they've changed. Not just say it, but show it through consistent, meaningful actions over time. Anything less is just a replay of the old pattern, and patterns don't change unless the person doing the changing is committed to it. When you understand that, you stop chasing after someone who's just testing the waters. You stop accepting apologies that are hollow, and you start demanding the respect you know you deserve. Because real respect isn't given lightly. It's earned over time through effort and genuine growth. If someone hasn't demonstrated that they're capable of this, then their return is not a gift or a second chance, it's a risk. A risk you should be willing to walk away from, because your self-worth is far more valuable than temporary relief or fleeting hope. Walking away from that situation isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the ultimate act of self-love. It's saying, I value myself enough to wait for someone who's willing to meet my standards, not settle for someone who's just trying to fix their mistake because they're afraid of losing you. When you do this, you set a standard for how others should treat you. You teach people that you're not someone to be taken for granted, that love isn't about desperation or convenience, but about mutual growth and respect. And when you walk away, remember this, the regret they'll carry isn't about losing you, because they'll realize too late what they lost. The regret is about the missed opportunity to be the person who truly valued you, who fought for you, who appreciated you from the start. They'll regret their mistake, but by then, you'll be in a place where you've already moved on, already elevated your standards, already claimed your worth. Your strength lies in knowing that walking away is not the end. It's the beginning of something better, something more aligned with your true value. Now, you see, the real power is in understanding that not every apology, not every attempt at reconciliation warrants a second chance. Sometimes, the greatest act of love you can give yourself is to walk away from something that isn't serving your highest good, because your worth isn't something you should ever compromise for the sake of making someone else comfortable. When you do that, you're not just protecting your peace, you're affirming your value, your boundaries, and your future happiness. And that's the kind of strength that transforms your life and sets the stage for healthier, more genuine relationships in the future. You see, one of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life is learning how to let go of what no longer serves you. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to truly master. Because letting go isn't just about releasing a person or a situation. It's about releasing the emotional baggage, the stories, and the beliefs that keep you tied to the past. When you cling to what's gone, you're anchoring yourself to a version of reality that no longer exists, and in doing so, you're limiting your capacity to grow into the person you're meant to become. Letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting that the chapter is closed, that the story has reached its natural conclusion, and that holding on to it only keeps you from opening the door to new possibilities. It's about respecting yourself enough to stop replaying the pain, regret, or anger that keeps you stuck. Because every time you hold on to resentment, guilt, or disappointment, you're carrying a weight that drains your energy and clouds your perspective. You're telling yourself that somehow holding on to the hurt will keep you safe or help you learn. But the truth is, it only keeps you trapped. Imagine your life as a garden. When you refuse to let go of old weeds, those negative beliefs, grudges, or fears, they choke the growth of the beautiful flowers you're meant to nurture. But when you pull those weeds out with intention and compassion, suddenly your garden is free to flourish. The same applies to your emotional landscape. When you release what no longer serves you, you make space for growth, for new opportunities, for genuine happiness. You begin to see that your past doesn't define your future, it merely informs it. And the more you learn to let go, the more resilient you become, because you understand that your peace isn't dependent on things outside of you. Letting go is an act of courage. It takes bravery to face the truth that some situations, some relationships, or some beliefs are no longer in alignment with who you are now or who you want to become. It's about acknowledging that holding on out of fear, guilt, or hope for change that may never come only prolongs your suffering. When you're willing to release, you're embracing the reality that growth often requires change, and change requires surrender. Surrender to the fact that some chapters are meant to close so new ones can begin. You see, holding on can sometimes be a subtle form of control. We cling because it feels familiar, it feels safe, even if it's painful. But real safety doesn't come from holding on to what's broken. It comes from trusting the process of life, trusting that letting go creates space for something better. It's about trusting that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to let go gracefully, to release the anger, the disappointment, the regret, and the expectations that no longer serve your highest good. Because when you do, you're giving yourself permission to heal, to grow, and to find peace. Letting go also means forgiving, not just others, but yourself. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as condoning what happened, but it's really about freeing yourself from the prison of the past. When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was okay. You're saying that you refuse to carry the burden of resentment anymore. You're choosing to release the grip of pain so you can breathe freely again. Forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. It's the act that restores your power and allows you to move forward with clarity and strength. And in that process, you learn that life isn't about holding on to what's familiar, but about embracing what's possible. It's about trusting that the universe always has something better in store when you're willing to let go of what's holding you back. When you release the need to control every outcome, you open yourself to new opportunities, to new relationships, to new versions of yourself. You start to see that every ending is really a new beginning disguised in the form of loss or disappointment. Letting go isn't easy. It's one of the most challenging acts of self-love because it requires you to face the fears, the doubts, and the pain that have kept you anchored. But remember this: the moment you decide to let go, you reclaim your power. You say to yourself, I am not my past. I am not my pain. I am someone who is capable of healing, of growth, of moving forward. And once you internalize that truth, the universe begins to respond differently. Doors open, new paths emerge, and life begins to feel lighter, freer, more aligned with your true self. It's a process, step by step, day by day. Sometimes, letting go means making difficult choices. It means walking away from relationships that no longer serve your higher purpose. It means releasing old stories about yourself that limit your potential. It means forgiving yourself for past mistakes and recognizing that you are deserving of love and happiness regardless of what happened before. When you do this, you're not just freeing yourself from pain, you're creating space for joy, for abundance, for genuine connection. The most profound transformation comes when you realize that holding on to the past keeps you tethered, but letting go sets you free. When you release the weight of yesterday's disappointments, you become lighter. You breathe more easily. You see the world through clearer eyes. You understand that your future isn't dictated by what you've experienced, but by what you choose to let go of and what you decide to embrace. The universe responds to your willingness to surrender, to trust, and to believe in the possibility that life is always working in your favor, even when circumstances seem difficult or unfair. You see, the art of letting go is also about patience. It's about knowing that healing takes time and that there's no rush to force things to change overnight. Sometimes you need to sit with the pain, sit with the discomfort, and allow yourself to feel it fully before you can release it. That's where true strength lies, allowing yourself to feel, to process, and then to let go with grace and compassion. It's about understanding that every experience, no matter how painful, is an opportunity for growth if you approach it with an open heart. Letting go is a declaration that you trust life's natural flow. You trust that the universe has a plan for you, and sometimes that plan involves releasing what no longer aligns with your highest good. When you surrender to this truth, you begin to walk through life with a sense of peace, knowing that you're exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't always feel comfortable. Because growth rarely does. Growth often requires shedding parts of ourselves, old beliefs, outdated stories, attachments, to discover the version of ourselves that's more authentic, more resilient, more alive. So embrace the process. Trust that by letting go, you're making room for something better. Trust that your pain is temporary and that healing is inevitable when you give yourself permission to release. Trust that the universe is always conspiring in your favor, guiding you toward your highest good, even when the path is unclear. When you adopt this mindset, You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You're a creator of your own destiny, shaping your future with every choice you make to let go and move forward. The truth is, no one can do this for you. You have to decide that enough is enough, that your happiness, your peace, and your growth are worth the effort it takes to release what's holding you back. Because once you do, you'll realize that your life becomes lighter, clearer, and more aligned with your purpose. You'll start attracting relationships, opportunities, and experiences that reflect the love and respect you now have for yourself. Letting go isn't an end, it's the beginning of your most authentic, empowered life, one where you're in control, where you're free, and where you're finally living in alignment with who you truly are.